The rain drummed steadily against the tall windows of the Crestview Recovery Institute, a soft but persistent reminder of life continuing beyond its walls. Inside, Nora Caldwell gripped the armrests of her wheelchair, her knuckles pale, as if anchoring herself against an invisible tide. Just 18 months ago, she'd been Nora Caldwell, the brilliant young architect behind Caldwell Designs, daughter of Portland's most prominent real estate mogul, sketching blueprints that shaped skylines. Now she was a patient, a name on a chart, a tragedy murmured about in the city's elite circles. "Miss Caldwell?" A nurse poked her head in, her tone overly cheerful. "Your new therapist is here." Nora didn't look up. She knew the routine. Another expert, another dose of hollow promises, another letdown. The finest specialists, the latest therapies, none had changed the stark reality. Her spine was shattered in the crash. Her legs were useless. No amount of "you'll get through this" could rewrite that. The door swung open and heavy footsteps crossed the room, not the cautious steps of the usual therapists, but firm, grounded. "Nora," a man's voice said, steady and warm. She turned. He wasn't what she'd pictured. Tall, with a lean but sturdy frame, his sandy hair slightly tousled, like he'd been caught in the wind. His scrubs were standard, but his presence wasn't. There was a quiet strength, a hint of someone who'd faced his own battles. His hazel eyes held hers without flinching. "Jasper Hayes," he said, offering a hand. She ignored it. "You're the new physical therapist?" "Yep." He didn't seem fazed by her sharpness, just lowered his hand and studied her, not like a case file but like a person. "Let me guess," Nora said, her voice flat. "You're here to tell me that with grit and a good attitude, I'll be walking in no time." Jasper let out a soft chuckle, not mocking but real. "Not even close." That caught her off guard. "Then what are you here for?" He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "To be honest, you're angry, and you've got every reason to be." She blinked. No one had said that before, not so plainly. "Life handed you a raw deal," he went on. "No pep talk's gonna erase that. But what you do next, that's your move." Nora's jaw tightened. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough." He tilted his head. "You're used to calling the shots. Now you feel like the world's calling them for you. That's the real fight, isn't it?" Her chest constricted. He was too close to the truth, and it stung. "So what's your big plan then?" she asked, defiant. "I'm not here to promise miracles," Jasper said. "I'm here to help you build a life with what you've got. If you're in, we'll make you as strong as you can be, on your terms." She wanted to push him away, to shut him out like the others. But his voice, free of pity, full of quiet conviction, made her pause. "Why should I believe you're any different?" He shrugged. "You don't have to, but I've got a kid who needs me to show up every day. I don't waste time on things I don't mean." "A kid?" That surprised her. No ring on his finger, but then plenty of parents went without. Before she could say more, the door creaked, and a small face appeared. A boy, maybe 5, with a mop of brown curls and Jasper's same steady eyes. "Dad, I made a rocket," he said, waving a paper covered in bold marker lines. Jasper's face softened instantly. "Hey Milo, come here." The boy bounded in, unbothered by the wheelchair, and thrust the drawing at Nora. It was a stick figure in a bright red cape, soaring above a jagged mountain. "That's you," Milo said, as if it were obvious. "Dad says you're going to be super strong." Nora's breath hitched. No one had spoken to her with such simple faith in ages. Jasper cleared his throat. "Milo, Miss Caldwell's got work to do. Let's give her some space." But as Milo turned to go, he flashed Nora a toothy grin. "You look like a superhero." And then he was gone, leaving Nora clutching the drawing, her eyes burning with something she couldn't name. Jasper scratched the back of his neck. "Sorry. He's got no filter." Nora didn't reply. She was too busy wrestling with the strange warmth creeping into her chest. Jasper watched her for a moment, then nodded toward the door. "Think it over. I'll be back tomorrow. Up to you if I stick around." He left, and the room fell quiet again, save for the rain's steady patter. Nora stared at Milo's drawing, the bold lines of the superhero, and felt a faint spark, a feeling she hadn't known since the accident. Not hope, not yet, but the possibility of it. The next morning, Nora sat by the window, turning Milo's drawing over in her hands. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the world outside seemed a little less distant. She didn't know if she was ready to trust Jasper or herself. But for the first time in months, she was willing to find out. The vivid, uneven strokes of marker on Milo's drawing felt like a stark contrast to the polished order of Nora's former life. Blueprints, client meetings, every line and decision calculated to perfection. Now she held a child's creation, and somehow, it carried more weight than any contract she'd ever signed. A knock at the door snapped her out of her thoughts. "Ready?" Jasper stood in the doorway, swapped out of scrubs for a gray hoodie and track pants, a water bottle dangling from one hand. Nora set the drawing on the bedside table. "For what?" "First rule of rehab," he said, stepping inside. "We don't do it sitting still." She frowned. "I can't walk." "Not yet," he said, unfazed. "But we're not starting with walking. We're starting with moving." He nodded at her wheelchair. "You've been letting this thing run your life. Time to take the wheel." Nora's grip tightened on the armrests. "I know how to use it." "Do you?" Jasper raised an eyebrow. "Or have you been letting nurses and aides push you wherever they decide?" The truth hit hard. Since the accident, she'd been passive, rolled from therapy to meals to her room like cargo. She hadn't even tried to steer herself. Jasper read the flicker in her expression and nodded. "Thought so. Come on, we're going outside." "Outside?" A spike of anxiety shot through her. Outside meant curious stares, the world she'd been severed from. "Yep." Jasper's tone was easy, like it was no big deal. "Milo's with his grandma." Perfect time. Something about his calm, no-nonsense demeanor made her square her shoulders. "Fine." The Crestview Recovery Institute's garden was modest but tidy, with a smooth stone path weaving through beds of lavender and daisies. The moment the air hit her face, Nora breathed in deeply. She hadn't realized how much she missed the scent of earth, the touch of a breeze. Jasper positioned himself beside her. "All right, hands on the rims. You're driving." Her first push was clumsy, her arms weaker than she'd thought. The chair veered slightly. "Again," Jasper said. She pushed, then again, and by the sixth try, she was rolling steadier, her muscles aching but awake. "Good," Jasper said, matching her pace as she moved down the path. "Now let's talk about what's next." "Next?" She glanced at him. "You didn't think this was just about the chair, did you?" He gave her a sidelong look. "You're a Caldwell. I'm betting you were used to owning a room. Let's get you back to that." Nora's throat tightened. "I can't go back to my firm like this." "Why not?" "Look at me," she snapped. "You think clients want designs from someone who can't even stand?" Jasper stopped, turning to face her. "They'll see the chair first, sure. But that's only an issue if you let it be." She opened her mouth to argue, but a voice interrupted. "Nora?" Her stomach sank. She knew that voice. Ethan Warwick, her ex-fiancé, stood at the garden's edge, polished as ever in a tailored coat, his face a mix of surprise and sympathy. "I heard you were here," he said, stepping closer. "I wanted to check on you." Nora's hands clenched on the wheels. "I'm fine." Ethan's eyes flicked to Jasper, then back to her. "And this is?" "Jasper Hayes," Jasper said evenly. "Her therapist." "Right." Ethan's smile was tight, forced. "Nora, you look," he faltered, searching for a word that wasn't broken. "Alive," she said, her voice sharp. Ethan flushed. "I just meant it's good to see you. I've missed you." Jasper made a low sound, almost a snort. Ethan ignored it, stepping closer. "Look, I know things ended rough, but maybe we could talk. Just us." A year ago, Nora might have agreed without hesitation. But now, she remembered Ethan's hospital visits, his pitying glances, his slow retreat when her recovery stalled. "I'm in a session," she said coolly. Ethan's smile wavered. "Of course." He pulled a business card from his pocket, setting it on her lap like she was a desk. "Call me when you're ready. We could grab coffee." Then he walked away. The silence was heavy. "Well," Jasper said after a beat, "that was a moment." Nora picked up the card, tore it in two, and let the pieces flutter to the ground. Jasper's lips twitched. "Atta girl." She exhaled, some of the weight lifting. "Can we keep going?" "Hell yeah." He nudged her chair lightly. "Next stop, the slope by the oak tree." Nora groaned. "You're joking." "Nope." His grin was infectious. "Time to see what you're made of." The slope by the oak was steeper than it looked. Nora's arms burned as she pushed forward, inch by grueling inch. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her breath sharp and ragged. Jasper walked beside her, hands in his pockets, like they were just out for a stroll. But his presence, steady, unhurried, kept her going. For the first time in months, Nora felt a flicker of who she used to be. Not the architect, not the heiress, but the woman who didn't quit. And as she crested the slope, her chest heaving, she caught Jasper's eye. He nodded just once, and she knew he saw it too. "You're slowing," Jasper observed, his tone light but pointed. "No," Nora gritted out, her jaw tight. "I'm pacing myself." He let out a low laugh. Sure you are. Her glare lacked venom. Despite the ache in her arms, there was something grounding in the effort, a reminder her body could still fight, still move forward. When she finally crested the slope, she leaned forward, breathless. I hate you. Nah, you don't, Jasper said, passing her a water bottle. You just hate that I'm right. She took it, gulping down the cool water, savoring the relief. From the top of the slope, the Crestview grounds spread out below, the stone paths, the lavender beds, the bench where she'd held Milo's drawing just yesterday. It looked different from up here, less daunting, like a challenge she could face. Why are you doing this? She asked abruptly. Jasper raised an eyebrow. Doing what? This. She waved at the slope, her wheelchair, herself. Most therapists would have me doing arm curls in a gym. You're out here acting like I'm training for the Olympics. He sat on the grass beside her, elbows on his knees, staring out at the horizon. When I was a firefighter, I saw people come back from injuries that should have ended them. Some gave up. Some didn't. He plucked a dandelion, twirling it. The ones who kept going weren't always the toughest. They were the ones too stubborn to quit. Nora studied him, the faint scar above his eyebrow, the way his gaze hardened when he mentioned the past. There was a story there, one he wasn't telling. So you're saying I'm stubborn, she said, deflecting. Jasper grinned. You're a damn bulldozer. He paused. That's why I think you'll find your way back. His quiet confidence sent a shiver through her. No one, not even her father, had said anything like that in months. Before she could respond, a small voice cut through the air. Dad! Nora! Milo came barreling across the grass, his backpack bouncing, curls wild. An older woman, likely his grandmother, trailed behind, waving before heading toward the parking lot. Hey champ, Jasper said, catching Milo in a hug as he crashed into him. What are you doing here? Grandma said school let out early for teacher day, Milo said, then turned to Nora, eyes bright. Did you know my dad saved people from a fire? He's got a big shiny award at home. Milo, Jasper said, a gentle warning in his tone. But Nora smiled. Is that right? Milo nodded, undeterred. Yeah, he keeps it in a drawer, but I think it's awesome. Jasper rubbed his neck, a flicker of discomfort crossing his face before he redirected. Milo, why don't you show Nora what you made in class? Milo dug into his backpack and pulled out a lumpy clay figure. It's a bird. See the wings? As Milo rambled on, Nora watched Jasper. The way he softened around his son, the careful way he steered the conversation. There was pain behind his eyes, a story he wasn't ready to share. And for reasons she couldn't quite name, she wanted to know it. That night, in the quiet of the Crestview computer lab, Nora scrolled through old articles. It didn't take long to find it. Local firefighter honored for bravery, loses partner in tragic crash. A younger Jasper stared out from a grainy photo, his face tight as he accepted an award. The story was short but heavy. A warehouse fire, a daring rescue, then a devastating blow. His partner, killed in a hit-and-run just weeks after he'd returned to duty. Nora leaned back, her chest tight. No wonder he understood what it meant to lose everything. Burning the midnight oil? She startled, closing the browser as Jasper appeared in the doorway. Couldn't sleep, she said quickly. He nodded, stepping inside. Milo left this for you. He handed her a folded piece of paper. Nora opened it to find a marker drawing of 3 stick figures. One tall Jasper, one small Milo, and one in a wheelchair, unmistakably her. At the bottom, in messy scrawl, it read, Team Nora. Her throat tightened, warmth spreading through her. He's a good kid, she said softly. Yeah, Jasper said, his voice quiet. He likes you. I like him too. They sat in easy silence for a moment. Then Jasper cleared his throat. Ethan stopped by earlier. Asked about you. Nora tensed. What did you say? The truth, that you're working harder than anyone I've met. He paused. He also mentioned some charity event next month. Said you used to run the show. Nora's stomach twisted. The Caldwell Foundation Gala, her family's annual showcase, where she'd once dazzled donors with her charm and designs. Now the thought of it, of the pitying glances and whispered gossip, made her want to shrink away. I'm not going, she said flatly. Jasper didn't push. He just looked at her, steady as ever. Your call. But if you change your mind, I bet you'd steal the show. She snorted, but his words lingered, stirring something she wasn't ready to name. For now, she folded Milo's drawing and tucked it close. Maybe she wasn't ready for a gala, or for the world. But with Jasper and Milo in her corner, she was starting to believe she could get there. The annual Caldwell Designs Gala. Nora hadn't thought about it in months. A year ago, she'd been the one orchestrating every detail, charming clients, and delivering the closing remarks with a sketchpad in hand. Now the idea of it made her feel exposed, vulnerable. "I'm not ready for that," she said softly. Jasper studied her. "Not ready to be seen? Or not ready to be pitted?" She didn't answer, but his words cut deep. She was tired of being the fallen star, the story people told in hushed tones. Beyond the Crestview walls, her old life marched on without her. Maybe it was time to step back into it. The Caldwell Designs Gala was a spectacle of elegance. Chandeliers gleamed over the Portland Hotel ballroom, their light dancing across polished floors. The clink of wine glasses mingled with the hum of conversation as the city's architectural elite glided through in tailored suits and shimmering dresses. Nora had been part of this world since she was a teenager, first as Victor Caldwell's daughter, then as his rising star, and finally, before the crash, as his equal. Tonight, she felt like a stranger. Her fingers gripped the armrests of her wheelchair as Jasper pushed her through the grand entrance. The emerald gown she wore, chosen by Milo for its superhero vibes, hugged her frame perfectly, but she felt like it belonged to someone else. "You okay?" Jasper asked, his voice low, his hand brushing her shoulder. She swallowed hard. "I don't know why I let you talk me into this." "Because you're still a Caldwell," he said, giving her a gentle nudge. "And Caldwells don't quit." Before she could reply, a familiar voice broke through. "Nora." Her father, Victor Caldwell, approached, his presence commanding as ever, graying temples, sharp suit, the kind of authority that silenced rooms. But when his eyes met hers, there was a flicker of something softer, almost regretful. "You came," he said, as if he hadn't sent the invitation himself. "I did," Nora replied, her tone steady. Victor's gaze shifted to Jasper. "Mr. Hayes, I didn't expect you." "Wouldn't miss it," Jasper said, his voice easy but his stance subtly protective. An uneasy silence hung between them until Victor cleared his throat. "Nora, the partners have been asking about you. It'd mean a lot if you said a few words tonight." Her stomach twisted. She knew what he wanted. A polished speech about overcoming adversity, delivered from her wheelchair to reassure everyone the Caldwell legacy was unshaken. "No," she said. Victor blinked. "Pardon? If I speak, it's not to play your poster child," she said, holding his gaze. "I'll say what I want to say." For a moment, she thought he'd push back. Then he nodded, a rare concession. "All right." As he walked away, Jasper let out a low whistle. "Remind me not to get on your bad side." Nora didn't answer. Her eyes had caught on a figure across the room, Ethan, her ex-fiancé, watching her with a look she couldn't read. When their gazes met, he raised his glass in a faint, almost mocking salute. Her jaw clenched. "Ignore him," Jasper said, following her line of sight. "He's not worth your energy." But Nora was done ignoring things, the pitying stares, the murmured condolences, the way people treated her like a ghost. "I need a minute," she said suddenly. Jasper frowned. "You sure?" "Yeah. Go grab a drink." "I'll be fine." He hesitated, then nodded and headed for the bar. Nora took a deep breath and wheeled toward the elevators, craving a moment of quiet away from the crowd, the expectations, the weight of it all. But as she reached for the button, the doors slid open and Ethan stepped out. "Nora," Ethan said, his voice dripping with feigned surprise. "Didn't expect to see you here." She skipped the small talk. "What do you want, Ethan?" He leaned against the wall, a smirk playing on his lips. "Just checking in. You've been cozy with that therapist of yours, haven't you?" His tone turned sly. "Does he get that close with all his patients?" Nora's stomach churned, but her voice stayed steady. "Move." Ethan didn't budge. "Come on, Nora. We both know you're only here because your father pulled strings. You really think anyone cares what you have to say?" He leaned closer, his voice a low taunt. "Let's be real, you're not the woman you were." Something inside her broke, not with despair but with resolve. "You're right," she said, her voice calm but razor-sharp. "I'm not." She wheeled past him, back toward the ballroom, her pulse pounding, not with fear but with fire. Jasper met her halfway, his eyes narrowing as he read her expression. "What happened?" "I'm ready," she said. "Ready for what?" "To speak." The stage lights burned bright, the crowd's murmur fading to a hush as every eye turned to her. Nora gripped the podium, steadying herself. Her father sat in the front row, his face guarded. Ethan lingered near the back, his smirk faint but unmistakable. Jasper stood by the exit, arms crossed, his gaze solid. And beside him, Milo perched on a chair, beaming with two enthusiastic thumbs up. Nora took a deep breath. "A year ago," she began, her voice ringing clear, "a car crash left me paralyzed from the waist down." The room went still. For months, I thought my story ended there, that my career, my dreams, everything I'd built was gone. She paused, letting the weight settle. But I was wrong. The only thing holding me back was my fear. She spoke of resilience, of redefining strength, of how society often saw disability as a dead end rather than a different path. Then, for the first time in public, she addressed the whispers about Caldwell Designs. "Some of you wonder if I'll return to the firm. The answer is yes, not in spite of my disability, but because of it. Because I've learned that true design isn't just about structures, it's about creating spaces for everyone." The applause started as a ripple, then swelled into a wave. She caught her father standing, clapping with a rare intensity. Ethan's smirk had vanished, his face unreadable. But it was Jasper's look that anchored her, not pity, not even pride, but a quiet, unshakable respect. As she wheeled off the stage, Milo darted toward her, wrapping her in a fierce hug. "You were awesome." Nora laughed, hugging him back. Over his shoulder, she met Jasper's eyes. "Told you," he said, his smile warm. For the first time in months, she believed it. The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows of Nora's apartment, casting soft patterns across the wooden floor. She sat at her dining table, still buzzing from the gala, scrolling through a flood of emails, clients wanting to reconnect, reporters seeking interviews, even a few advocacy groups inviting her to speak. Her phone pinged with a text from Jasper. "Milo keeps saying you won the gala. You're officially his hero now." "Sorry, I'm out of a job." Nora grinned, typing back, "Tell him I'll wear the hero cape proudly." A knock at the door broke her focus. She wheeled over, expecting a package or neighbor, but found her father, Victor, standing there, looking oddly hesitant. "Dad," she said, surprised. "I didn't know you were coming." "I should have called," Victor admitted, stepping inside. His eyes swept over her apartment, her first real home since leaving Crestview. They lingered on a framed photo on her shelf, a younger Nora atop a cliff in the Columbia Gorge, wind in her hair, triumphant after a climb. "Remember that trip?" he asked quietly. "Of course. It was one of their last before the crash." Victor exhaled, running a hand through his graying hair. "I've made mistakes, Nora. The worst was thinking your worth was tied to what you could do physically." His voice was raw, unguarded. "Last night, when you spoke, I saw you, the real you again." Nora's throat tightened. For so long, she'd craved those words, but hearing them now felt different, less like validation, more like a bridge being rebuilt. She nodded, not trusting her voice yet. Victor hesitated, then added, "The firm needs you. Not as a symbol, but as you are. If you want it, your place is waiting." She didn't answer right away. The gala had shown her she could step back into that world, but on her terms. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "But if I come back, it's to build something new, something that matters." Victor's eyes softened, a rare smile breaking through. "That's my girl." As he left, Nora wheeled to the window, gazing out at the city skyline she'd once helped shape. Her phone buzzed again, another text from Jasper. "Lunch with me and Milo later? He's insisting on showing you his new superhero sketch." She smiled, typing back, "Wouldn't miss it." The world outside was moving, and for the first time in a long time, Nora felt ready to move with it, wheelchair, scars, and all. "Not just as my daughter," Victor said, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "but as the strongest person I've ever known." His eyes held hers. "I want you back at Caldwell Designs. Not out of obligation, because we need you." Nora's breath caught. "On one condition." "Name it." "We start an accessibility division. Serious funding, real innovation, not just a PR move." Victor's lips curved into a rare, genuine smile. "It's yours." 3 weeks later, Nora sat at the head of the conference table in the Caldwell Designs boardroom, Jasper at her side as the newly appointed lead consultant for their accessibility initiatives. Taped to the wall behind them was Milo's latest masterpiece, a colorful marker sketch of the firm's logo with a wheelchair soaring above it, captioned Team Nora in wobbly letters. "All right, everyone," Nora said, swiping through her tablet's agenda. "Let's talk about building a world that works for everyone." As the meeting ended, Jasper stayed behind, leaning against the table. "You know, Milo's been bugging me about when you're coming over again. He's got this robotics project and swears you're the only one who can help him make it epic." Nora raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk tugging at her lips. "Is that so? And what do you think?" Jasper paused, then reached for her hand, his calloused fingers gentle against hers. "I think we're a damn good team." A warmth spread through her, his touch sparking something she hadn't felt in years. "Yeah," she said softly. "We are." Beyond the window, Portland's skyline gleamed under the midday sun. A year ago, Nora had believed her story was finished. Now, she knew it was just getting started.